Shalom and welcome again to our Hebrew class. And as we've been doing every week, we're going through the book of John in Hebrew. And today we have reached already chapter 21, verses 11 to 14. So let us begin and see how we go. So we first, as usual, just for anyone who's just happened to join us, we have what's called the Nikud, the valve markings, and how we can use them in a rough way. And then the useful resources, which are very helpful, and we hope you use them. So we come to 11, and we see it's represented with a yod and an aleph. The yod is a value of 10, the aleph is a value of 1. So we're in 11. And so let us go through the letters. Vav, Yod, Ayin, Lamed, Shin, Mem, Ayin, Vav, Nun Sofit, Kaf, Fe, Aleph, Vav, Yod, Mem, Shin, Kaf Sofit, Aleph, Tav, Hey, Mem, Kaf, Mem, Resh, Tav, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yod, Bayit, Shin, Hey. And so we read. Vaya'al. And he went up, because we know that al means to go up. And I do have a bit here, like I've got a lot, verb to go up, to ascend. And then we have Shimon, so and he went up, Shimon. And then we have Kepha, which is Peter. Vayim Shok. Vayim Shok, and he dragged. If we look down here, we've had that before. Mashak is a kal verb to pull, to drag, to draw or to drag. Then we have et ha mikmoret, the net. El to hayabasha, which means the dry land. So Simon Peter came up and drew the net onto land. So they normally just translate as land, but the literal word means dry land. So now we can read that. And it is Vaya'al Shimon Kepha Vayim Shok Et Ha Mikmoret El Ha Yabisha. And the translation, and he went up, Shimon, Kepha, and he dragged, grammar mark of the net, to the dry land. So we come to part B of 11, and we have a Vav, a Hey, a Yod, an Aleph, a Mem, a Lamed, Aleph, Hey, Dalet, Gimel, Yod, Mem Sofit, Gimel, Dalet, Vav, Lamed, Yod, Mem Sofit, Mem, Aleph, Hey, Vav, Chet, Mem, Shin, Yod, Mem Sofit, Vav, Shin, Lamed, Shin, Hey. So now let's read it. The he, and it was Me'le'ah, full of. So how do we get that? Comes from the root word Malay. As an adjective, it means to fulfill, full, complete, whole. So full of, I've added. Dagim. Dagim we know is fish, but it's the plural form, right? Gedolim. Now it's translated as large, because we know Gadol means great or big, right? So it's also in the same plural form as the fish. So then we can use it as large fish. Me'ah. Now me'ah means 100. V'chamishim. And we know chamishim means 50 and 50. Ush lo sha. Ush lo sha. Meaning and 3. Shalosha is 3. And drew the net onto the land. It was full of large fish, 153. And so now it's time for us to read that. Vehi mele'a dagim gedolim me'a v'chamishim ushlosha. And the translator, and it was full of fish, large 153. And so we come to part C. We see we've got a Vav, Lamed, Aleph, Nun, Kuf, Resh, Ayin, Hey. Hey, Mem, Kaf, Mem, Resh, Tav. Aleph, Fesofit, Kaf, Yod. Resh, Beit, Yod, Mem, Sofit, Hey, Yod, Vav. And so we read it. Below, and not. Nik, Re'ah, was torn. It's a passive ending, so it was torn. Because we look down here and we see the word kara. And that's not the kara with an aleph, so it's a kara with an ayin, and it's a kol verb to tear, to rip. And I've got here, the above is a nifl verb with a passive voice. And that's why we have was torn, right? Not was torn. Ha mikmaret. Michmaret, meaning the net. Af ki. Now, af can mean despite that. I looked up af ki, and it means despite that, although, even that. Right, so I've got despite that. Rabim, many. And we know that rav means much or many, right, or abundant. Many. Hayu, they were. So the pronoun's sort of like the u at the end. And haya means to be, so it can be they were. So 153, and yet the net was not torn, even though there were so many. So that could be even though. Right, and so we now are able to read that. Velo nik re'ah ha mik moret af ki rabim hayu. And the translation, and not was torn the net, despite that many they were. And now we come to 12, and it's represented with a yod value of 10, vet, second letter of the alphabet, value of 2. Then we have vav, yod, aleph, mem, resh, aleph, lamed, yod, hey, mem, safit, yod, hey, vav, shin, ayin, bet, aleph, vav, vet, resh, vav, lamed, chet, mem, safit, vav, aleph, yod, nun, safit, aleph, yod, shin. And we can see that this is with a dot, it's a bayit. Without a dot, it's a vayit. Right, and so we have vayomer. Now, there's no pronoun, so it's he. And he said, alehem, unto them. Yeshua, that's the one speaking. Bo'u, which is you come, because he's speaking. Ve'ru lachem, you eat. Now I was wondering about that, and I found that bara is a kol verb and it means to eat. Basically, it's a biblical term. That's what the dictionary says. Maybe it's not a common term in modern Hebrew, but it's a biblical term to eat. Very good. So, and then we have the an, meaning and not, because an means not. Ish, a man. So Yeshua said to them, come and eat bread. But there was not one. Often when it says a man, they'll often say one. And now we can read it. Vayomer Alehem Yeshua Bo'u Ve'ru Lachem Ve'ein Ish. And he said unto them, Yeshua, you come, you eat bread, and not a man. And so we come to 12b, and we have a mem, nun safit, hey, tav, lamed, mem, yod, dalet, yod, mem safit, aleph, shin, resh, mem, lamed, aleph, vav, lamed, bet, vav, lamed, shin, aleph, lamed, mem, yod, aleph, tav, hey. And so let's read it. Min meaning from, ha, tal, me, dim meaning the disciples. So not a man from the disciples, a shir that, mela'o, filled him, right? Because mala means to fill, and the vav at the end is usually him or his. And then we got libo. Now, if we remember, live means heart, so it means his live, or his, in this case, it's libo, meaning his heart. Lishol, right, to ask. So how do we get that? It comes from the root, sha'al, which is a kol verb to ask, to request. So to ask, with the lamed in front of it. Me, which normally means who, and I've added are. Who are ta, you. So there was not one from the disciples whose heart filled him to ask, who are you? And so we can read it. Min ha tal mi dim asher mela'o libo lish'ol mi ata. From the disciples that filled him his heart to ask, who are you? And now we come to 12c. We have a kaf, yod, dalet, ayin, vav, aleph, shin, resh, hey, vav, aleph, hey, aleph, dalet, vav, nun sofit. And ki, for, yadu, they knew, because we know yada means to know, right? And the u at the end is they, that's the pronoun. They knew. Sheer that, who, he or he is, or he was, ha'adon, the master. So to ask, who are you? That's from the previous. For they knew that he was the master. And I've given you yada, which is a kol verb to know, to recognize, to be aware. And so we can read that. Ki, yadu, asher, hu, ha'adon. For they knew that he is the master. And they could put, and he was the master. And then we come to Yod, value of 10, Gimel, value of 3. We're in 13. And then we read. We go through the letters. Vav, Yod, Veyet, Aleph. Yod, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin. Vav, Yod, Kuf, Chet. Aleph, Tav, Hey, Lamed, Chet, Mem, Safit. Vav, Yod, Tav, Nun, Safit. Lamed, Hey, Mem, Safit. Vav, Aleph, Tav. Hey, Dalet, Gimel, Yod, Mem, Safit. So we do these every time so that we're just so familiar with the letters that it makes reading a lot easier. So if you're having struggles with the letters, go through them like that. Randomly go through them and you'll get so used to them. So now we read. Va-ya-vo. Now there's no pronoun and he came. Because of the vav and the yod, it changes the tense to a completed action, like a past tense. And he came. Yeshua va-yikach. Again, past tense. And he took. No pronoun, it's he. And he took. Et grammar marker ha-lechem, meaning the bread. Grammar marker and the bread. Vayiten, and he gave. Always, every time we see these combinations, it's like a perfect form, meaning a completed action. And he gave it. Lahem, to them. Hem is them, because plural, right? Ve'et, grammar marker, and grammar marker, ha-da-gim, and the fish. So Yeshua came and took the bread and gave it and the fish to them. Now I've given you here, lakach is a col verb to take, to acquire, to win. But just to show you how vowels change things, I've got lekach, which looks very similar, but as a masculine noun it means literally a lesson or a moral. And lukach is a verb to be taken from, because it's got this kibbutz under it, which changes it, not to take, but to be taken from. So when something's taken from you rather than you take something. So we just got to understand these differences. And with time, we will remember that. Vayavo Yahushua vayikach et ha-lechem vayiten lahem ve'et ha-dagim. And of course the translation. And he came, Yahushua, and he took, grammar mark of the bread, and he gave it to them. And grammar mark of the fish. As you can see, I'm using 3 different versions of the name of Yahushua, because some people use one and some use another, but I just want to say that there's no perfect term because people have different understandings. So I've just used Yeshua in the English, Yahushua here, and Yahushua up there. I hope everyone's happy with that. And then we have a yod and a dalet. Now a yod is 10, a dalet is 4. And then we have a vav, zayin, aleph, tav, hey, pei, ayin, mem safit, hey, shin, lamed, yod, shin, yod, tav, aleph, shin, resh, nun, resh, aleph, hey, yod, hey, vav, shin, ayin. So now let's read that. Bezot. And this, and I've added was, and this was because it fits in with the reading. Ha, pa'am, the time. And this was the time. And this the time, or this was the time. Ha, shali, shit. And that means the third. With that ending, it means the third. Shir, that, near appeared. It's a niffield. Did appear, you could say, or appeared. That appeared. Now, of course, we look in here, we see the ra in there, which means to see, right? So you could say was seen. That appeared, was seen, Yahusha, right? So, but they've translated generally as appeared. Yahushua, or Yahusha. This is the third time that Yeshua appeared. And I've given you pa'am is a feminine noun and it means time or occasion. And I've given you here ra'ah, kol verb to see, to perceive, to notice. The nifl means to be visible or to appear. So now we read it. V'zot, ha pa'am, ha shali shiit, asher nira Yahushua. And the translation, and this was the time, the third, that appeared Yeshua. And now we get 14b. And we have an Aleph Lamed, Tav Lamed, Mem Yod, Dalet Yod, Vav. Aleph, Chet, Resh, Yod, Kuf, Vav, Mem, Vav. Mem, Ayin, Mem Safit, Hey, Mem, Tav, Yod, Mem Safit. El, which means two, when it's combined or joined to something. Talmidav, to his disciples. Acharei, meaning after. Kumo, meaning his rising. So of course the O is his, and kum means to rise up, right? His rising. Me'im, which literally means from with. I normally translate just from, but it's from with. Ha-metim, ha-metim, the dead. And the translation, Yeshua appeared to his disciples after he arose from the dead. And I've given you, of course, kom. See, because I'm here, when it's in that form, it could be the kamatz rule, which makes it a short O sound. Kom. It's a kol verb to arise, to get up, to stand up. The kamatz grammar rule may apply, right? So then we have im. It's a preposition with, together, by. Right. Now we can read that. El, tal, mi, daiv, acharei, kumo, me'im, ha-me'tim. To the disciples after his rising from with the dead. And now we come to our revision to just clarify our understanding. So first we look and we see Yod, value of 10. On the left, value of 1. We're in 11. Vaya'al, and he went up. And then who went up? Shimon. Kepha, that's Simon Peter. Vayim shok, and he dragged. Et, grammar marker, ha mikmoret, the net. L2, ha yabisha, meaning the dry land. And he went up, Shimon, Kepha, and he dragged, grammar marker, the net to the dry land. Vahi, and it was, mele'ah, to be filled, dagim, or full of fish. Gedolim, large, because it comes from great. Me'ah, 100, v'chamishim, and 50, ushlosha, and 3. And it was full of fish, large, 150 and 3. Below, and not nikre'ah, was torn, ha mikmoret, the net, af ki, despite that, or even though, rabim, meaning many, hayu, they were. And not was torn the net, despite that, many they were. And then we have 12. Yod Vayet, 10 and 2. Vayomer, and he said, Alehem, unto them, Yahushua, Bo'u, you come, Beru, and of course that is you ate, which is an unusual word that we use for eating there. As we said before, it's biblical. Lachem, bread. Ve'ayin, and not ish, a man. And he said unto them, Yeshua, you come, you eat bread, and not a man. Men from ha-talmidim, the disciples, asher, that, melao, which is like filled him, libo, his heart, lishol, to ask, me, who, or who are, ata, you. From his disciples that filled him his heart to ask, who are you? Ki, for Yadu, they knew, asher, that, who he or he is, he was, ha'adon, the master. For they knew that he is the master. And then we have a Yod, 10, Gimel 3. We're in 13. Vayavo, and he came. Yahushua, Vayikach, and he took et ha-lechem, the bread, Vayiten, and he gave lahem, to them, the et, and grammar marker, ha-dagim, the fish. And he came, Yahushua, and he took, grammar marker, the bread, and he gave it to them, and grammar marker, the fish. And then Yod 10, Dalet 4, Rim 14. V'zot, and this. Ha-pa'am, the time. Ha-shali-shit, the third. Asher, that nira, could be was seen or appeared. Yahushua, and this was the time, the third, that appeared Yahushua, to Talmidayev, his disciples, achare, after, kumo, his rising, me'im, from with, ha-metim, the dead. To his disciples after his rising from with the dead. And I hope you did okay in going through the revision there. And of course, we always like to look at the vowels just so that we have a remembrance of their names and how they're used. So we'll just choose the top line today. It's a cholam. So as we hear from the first vowel sound, that's the sound of the vowel. It is cho, so it gives us the O sound. And then we have shava. Now shava could be a short E sound if it's the beginning, or if it's the end, it's got no vowel sound, the end of the syllable. We're talking about syllable because it helps break up the word so we know how to read it. Then we have segol, so we can see it's se, it's a shorter E sound. Then we have zere, well that sounds like a longer E sound if we look at the E. Then we have patak, short A, and then we have kamatz, longer A. So just remember that's the way we use them in the words. Now we come to, again, repeating the useful resources, and I do hope you choose to endeavor to use them. And so we will now look and let's go backwards. Right, so we have a zade as a value of 90. Pei a value of 80, Ayin a value of 70, Samek a value of 60, Nun 50, Mem 40, Lamed 30, Kaf 20, Yod 10, Tet 9, Chet 8, Zion 7, Vav 6, Hey 5, Dalet 4, Gimel 3, Bayat 2, Aleph 1. Just by going backwards or jumping in between, it's a way of remembering them. Like if we go, Gimel is 3, Tet is 9, Samek is 60, and Resh is 200. So we're just working out if we can remember that, trying to remember it. And so we like to thank you for joining us, and we do pray these lessons are inspiring you to then study the Hebrew more. Because sometimes we discover truths that are a bit hidden in the translation, or they're not quite exactly what it says. So that's why we're learning this wonderful language, because we think of it as the holy tongue. Lashon Kodesh, the holy tongue. And we just like to wish you a Shavua Tov, a great week, and we hope you keep following these lessons. In Yeshua, our Master's great and glorious name. Amen.